The shit is wicked on these mean streets, mean streets.
Dear God, I wonder, can you save me?
When hip-hop and R&B blew up, young cats in the game started stacking crazy bread, and with all that money came wild spending and non-stop turn-ups. But that lifestyle, it attracted all the wrong heads, you feel me? These shady folks saw a come-up thinking they deserved a piece of the pie, and that's when some of the most savage criminals hit the scene. They flipped the game with robberies, extortion, and straight-up hit-for-hire moves. It became a whole hustle, fueled by jealousy, turf wars, gang beef, and dudes flexing for clout. Today, we gonna dive deep into the wild stories behind some of the most dangerous goons and thugs to ever run these New York streets. These dudes became legends, feared from the Bronx to Brooklyn, all up and down the East Coast. Even though most of them either dead or locked up now, just mentioning their names still got people moving different, watching where they step and who they roll with. Their legacy still got folks shaking in their boots to this day. Number 4 on the list, we got Walter King Tut Johnson. Son was born in '63, coming up in Cypress Hills, East New York. That's in Eastern BK for those who don't know. Even though he was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, that ain't stopped him from hitting the streets early. By 16, Tut was already out here catching licks, and that's when he earned that infamous King Tut title. Homie helped form a robbery crew called the Black Mafia, full of Brooklyn youngins that specifically targeted drug dealers. Tut was out here wildin', inspiring other cats in the hood. One of his most reckless moves, back in '82, dude robbed 300 Jehovah's Witnesses in his own mom's Kingdom Hall, right there in East New York. Straight savage, no cap. So after Tut got jammed up, he made bail like it was nothing, but bro couldn't chill. On October 7th, he and 4 of his homies ran up on a city bus, sticking up 12 passengers at gunpoint on that Queens to Brooklyn route. Wildin', right? Then on August 8th, 1983, he caught that conviction for second-degree robbery from the bus stick-up and first-degree robbery for that Kingdom Hall move. They hit him with 2 to 6 years in the pen. When he got paroled in '88, it ain't take long before he was back in the system. Caught slipping again, this time for criminal possession of a weapon, and they slapped him with another 4 to 8 years. Dude just couldn't stay out the streets. In '93, King Tut got caught up again, this time in some heavy heat. They charged him for his role in the shooting of an NYPD cop, Officer Richard Abel, right inside a Brooklyn barbershop. It all went down around 7 p.m. on January 15th at Eddie's Unisex Barbershop in East New York. Tut rolled in with 2 other goons, one of them being Gerard Gary trying to pull off a stick-up. But what they ain't know was that 2 off-duty cops, Avol and his partner John Morris, were already inside. Things got hot real quick when them cops started letting off shots, hitting Gary in both legs and the other dude in the chest. Both them cops caught leg shots, but Avol, he got it worse, hip shattered, and that left him partially paralyzed. They all got rushed to Brookdale Hospital, including Gary, but King Tut came out of that situation clean. He ain't even get hit. Now, while they couldn't pin the attempted homicide on him, Tut still got bagged for armed robbery and did a quick bid, 1 year in the joint. But in October '96, it wasn't over for him. They hit him with charges for 3 more stick-ups over the last 18 months. He was already on parole for another conviction when they booked him again. But here's the wild part. The robbery charges got dropped. Tut thought he was walking free, but as soon as he stepped out of court, the U.S. Marshals and NYPD Major Case Squad swooped in and cuffed him up again. So the state dropped them charges on King Tut, but that ain't mean he was off the hook. They did it so they could hit him with them federal laws instead. Homie got caught up bad. Ended up being the first dude from NYC to get sentenced under that '94 federal 3 strikes law. That means life, no parole, straight up. They shipped him out to USP Lee, one of them high security joints in Virginia. But in 2005, Tut got moved back to MCC for a minute. And guess what? He ended up locked up right next to his old partner in crime, Jacques Agnon. The feds came back trying to press King Tut, thinking he might have had something to do with Pac's '94 shooting. But fast forward to June 15th, 2011, and out of nowhere, this dude, Dexter Isaac, who was already locked up for life at the Brooklyn MDC, came through with the confession. He straight up said he was in on the whole robbery and shooting a Pac back in the '94. That took some heat off Tut, but it's crazy how them streets always talking. Dexter Isaac put out a written confession on allhiphop.com, saying in 1994, Jimmy Henchman, James Rosemond, hit him up to rob Tupac at Quad Studios. Isaac said Henchman threw him $2,500 and let him keep all the jewelry except one ring that Henchman kept for himself. Of course, Henchman's lawyer, Jeffrey Lichtman, denied any involvement. But by the time Isaac came clean, the statute of limitations had already run out. Meanwhile, King Tut is sitting at USP Lewisburg, a max security spot in Pennsylvania, riding out his time. Number 3 on the list, Kelvin 50 Cent Martin, born July 24th, 1964, straight out of the South Bronx. Back in the day, they used to call him Lil Shaft. Life wasn't easy for dude. When he was just 8, his parents split up and it was rough. His mom, she ain't waste no time. She pinned a note to Lil Homie's shirt, put him on a bus, and shipped him off to live with his grandma. When Martin was a teen, his life got flipped again. The fam bounced from the Bronx and landed in some subsidized digs in Brooklyn. Not long after, he got put onto Islam through the 5% Nation and started going by the name Shamik. His wild ways as a young buck landed him at Rikers Island in the C-74 juvenile spot, where he crossed paths with some future heavy hitters, like James Jimmy Henchman Rosemond, who would later become deeply embedded in the drug game. When he got out and hit Brooklyn again, Martin rolled with the Supreme Team crew, and that's when he started going by 50 Cent. Always had his 2 favorite straps on him, Colt 45 and a 357 Magnum. Instead of diving into the crack game, he kept it gangster with strong-arm robbery, making his dough by hitting licks instead of dealing that powder. He soon put together the crew known as Brooklyn Zoo, a squad of young hustlers who'd hit up blue-collar folks, college students, liquor stores, pimps, and especially tipsy clubbers. They'd be scooping up cash, designer bags, and gold chains from folks at the clubs in Manhattan, fencing all that bling they snagged from partygoers. Martin got his name buzzing all over the streets after he allegedly hit up some big names in the hip-hop game. He's rumored to have robbed members of the rap group Houdini, and even young James L. Cool J word is Martin rolled up on Smith in the parking lot of a White Castle in Brooklyn and snatched his solid gold rope chain at gunpoint. But Martin wasn't just after rappers. His main hustle was hitting up dope dealers at the stash spots. His game expanded to include kidnappings and extortion too. Martin was running a real shady game, offering so-called protection to local store owners and drug dealers. He'd tell them he'd keep their businesses safe from all kinds of trouble. Robberies, violence, vandalism, you name it. As long as they paid him off regularly. If anyone had the nerve to say no, they'd find themselves on the wrong end of the violence they were trying to dodge, all courtesy of Martin himself. It was a dirty scheme where saying no meant becoming a target for his own attacks. Martin's street life was straight up wild. Not only did he get stabbed more times than anyone could count, but he also caught at least 24 bullets across 9 different beefs. They never hit him with a murder charge, but folks think he's got 30 bodies on his rap sheet. Because he was dodging hits left and right, he even joined the army, probably to get away from the chaos or stack up some new skills. Eventually, they gave him an honorable discharge and sent him back from Georgia to NYC to face those robbery charges. NYPD detectives scooped him up at Fort Benning after he finished basic training. Once he hit Brooklyn, Martin set up shop in his girl's spot in Albany Houses over in Crown Heights. But it wasn't long before he caught a bullet at Albee Square Mall, so he started rocking a bulletproof vest just to stay alive. In the end, despite his love for body armor, it was gunshots that took him out. On October 20th, 1987, he got hit up in the stairwell of his girl's spot in Albany Houses, and 4 days later, he bled out in Kings County Hospital. Julio Wemo Acevedo, a former associate, got nailed with first-degree manslaughter and slapped with a minimum of 8 years behind bars for the hit. Acevedo claimed he was forced into that massacre by Martin's enemies, who had his family hostage and threatened to take out both him and his loved ones if he didn't cooperate. Number 2 on the list is Klein Bacote, born on May 30th, 1966, straight out of Brooklyn. Bacote grew up in Red Hook houses, one of the biggest public housing projects in the U.S. When he was just 2 years old, him and his older siblings saw some wild stuff. A dude busted into their crib and assaulted his moms in front of them. At the age of 5, he accidentally shot a childhood friend and his older brother Savior in the hallway outside the family apartment after discovering his father's handgun. Bacote's hustle kicked off early. By 13, he was snatching gold chains and purses, doing petty theft like a pro. At just 14, he got his hands on his first piece, a handgun, and started hitting licks with strong-arm robberies. By 15, he was locked up at Rikers Island, specifically in the C-74 section, which was the spot for juvenile offenders. While locked up, Bacote rubbed shoulders with other young hustlers, including James Jimmy Henchman Rosemond. Both of them were big shots among the inmates, running things while they did their time. Bacote got tagged with the nickname Calvin Klein by 50 Cent Martin, who was clowning on his habit of rocking that Calvin Klein gear. At first, Bacote wasn't feeling the name, but it stuck. At 17, Bacote was on his grind, taking notes from 50 Cent Martin and hitting up local drug dealers. He stayed plugged into 98.7 KISS FM, the radio station blasting that rap and R&B heat. That station was the plug for all the hottest parties and social spots in NYC, and Bacote used that to scope out where the action was at. Bacote would roll up to these spots and snatch up whatever he could. In '83, he caught a 4-year bid for armed robbery, doing time at the Elmira and Coxsackie joints, both high-security lockups. When he touched back down in '87, he was right back at it, robbing dope boys. A few weeks after he got home, he decided to get in the game himself. Even though his older bro, Savior, had his own hustle going on, they never teamed up. Savior had promised their moms he wouldn't drag Kelvin into the drug game. So Bacote's first move to set up his dope game was to clear out the competition. He called up 20 stick-up kids from the Red Hook houses, basically a squad of known robbers. Bacote told them, "Yo, hit up every dealer in the hood, take what you can, and make sure they know it's me behind this." He wanted to make it crystal clear that he was the one running the show. After hitting those dealers, Bacote got hit up by the ones he targeted. He laid it down real clear. "If you ain't from the hood, you ain't doing business here." That meeting and his whole vibe had the local hustlers calling him Godfather, because he was running the block with that boss mentality. While Bacote was busy keeping Red Hook's turf locked down, he wasn't shy about diving into the crack game and other territory himself. He set up shop in Coney Island, then moved his hustle to Red Hook. That's when he crossed paths with Danny Diamonds, a big-time dealer from Brooklyn. They linked up right after Bacote had to deal with some drama. A customer tried to play him dirty, and Bacote put him in check. In the middle of the fight, Bacote ended up stabbing the customer, and he was still rocking that blood on his threads when he met up with Diamonds, who just happened to be in the area. Diamonds told Bacote, who was still on parole, to switch up his gear and dump the bloody clothes in the building's incinerator. After that, Diamonds hooked Bacote up with 28 grams of coke. Bacote flipped that quick and called Diamonds back for 62 more grams. This hustle kept rolling every few hours until Bacote hit him up to cop a whole kilo of coke around noon the next day. Bacote and Diamonds teamed up and started running the show, dominating 33 spots in Brooklyn where they pushed crack. They didn't stop there. These cats expanded their empire to Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, D.C., North Carolina, and even South Carolina. They were raking in over $250,000 every 4 days with their narcotics hustle. The hustle was so real, the cash had to be weighed on scales, no cap. Bacote was making moves so big, he even took up-and-coming rapper Sean Jay-Z Carter under his wing. But the partnership hit a bump when Diamonds got caught in a nasty car wreck. His Nissan Pathfinder flipped 5 times, and that was the end of that. In '88, Bacote's crew got hit with a raid in New London, Connecticut, and they got busted with 2 kilos at their motel. Bacote was one of the 2 who managed to dodge the cuffs during that raid. The whole bus popped off after the cops got a tip from a snitch. Bacote ran into that snitch at a party later, and without knowing who he was, Bacote ended up dancing with the snitch's girl. When the snitch caught wind of it, he pulled up on Bacote, and Bacote hit him with a shot to the groin. After getting snagged on some other beef in New York, Bacote also caught charges for that New London shooting. They hit him with 2 counts of homicide and 5 for the straps he was holding. On top of that, they threw in robbery, and he ended up locked up on Rikers Island. While he was in the slammer, he picked up 2 more charges for assault. He was staring down a 7 to 21-year stretch and had to chill in the pen for 10 months waiting for his trial. Bacote beat all the charges except for the assault rap in 1989. He took a plea deal and got credit for the 55 days he'd already served. Even though Connecticut prosecutors didn't drag him back for the shooting, they hit him with a 5-year ban from the state. When he got out, his narcotics crew hooked him up with a kilo of coke, a fresh ride, and $10,000 in cash for a shopping spree. Right after, Bacote bounced from Red Hook to the Bedford-Stuyvesant area in North Brooklyn. He copped a new spot on St. James Street off Fulton, one of the main strips. Within just 4 days of getting out, he stacked up $100,000 from moving weight. About 45 days after he dodged that homicide beef, Bacote hit up a party in Maryland with 11 of his crew, including Jay-Z. At the party, things got wild and a brawl broke out, leading to Bacote and Jay-Z getting busted. They both caught charges for attempted homicide, assault, and packing heat. Bacote allegedly threw $50,000 in cash to a crooked cop to get Carter's charges dropped. Once Carter was out, he bailed Bacote and had his back in court 18 months later. Bacote, staring down 40 years in the pen, got hit with a 4-year bid for assault, stacking on top of a 21-year stretch for the other charges. By the time he started serving his sentence in '91, he was sitting on about $28 million. Fast forward to '96, 5 years in, Bacote hollered at his dude Tyrant Tata Smith to catch up on what's popping back in the hood. Smith, who was tight with Bacote's old protege Jay-Z, was set to hook them up for the first time in years. But with Jay-Z's debut album dropping that same year, and Bacote deep in the Fed's radar for still moving weight, Bacote kept it low. He wasn't trying to drag his boy into the mess or have him tied to his street hustle. Eventually, Bacote managed to get that assault conviction flipped and chopped down the rest of his sentence to 15 years. After doing a solid 13 years, 3 months, and 12 days behind bars, he walked out in 2004. Number 1 on the list is Jimmy Henchman, born James J. Rosemond on February 5th, 1965, straight out of Brooklyn. Dude kicked off his criminal career at just 16, getting pinched for bike theft. That landed him at Rikers Island in the C-74 juvenile spot, where he linked up with future big-time criminals like Kelvin, 50 Cent Martin. While they were locked up together, Rosemond went by Ace, and Martin was tagged as Little Bastard. By the time he hit 18, Rosemond was already caught up with a first-degree robbery charge and a second-degree homicide charge. Then just a year later, he added a third charge to his record for criminal possession of a firearm. Rosemond didn't just keep it local. He took his hustle all the way to LA, where he got hit with a firearm charge in February 1996. Tupac Shakur threw shade at him in a track, accusing Rosemond of being deep in the drama that led to Pac's first shooting, which went down a couple years before. On the night of November 30th, 1994, Tupac rolled up to Quad Studios and got hit up by 2 dudes decked out in military gear. In the lobby, Pac and his crew, Randy Stretch Walker from the Live Squad and another homie, found themselves staring down the barrel as these dudes held them up at gunpoint. Pac got jacked for $40,000 worth of ice and gold that night. They blasted him 5 times and gave him a beatdown with the gun. Got hit in the hand, thigh, groin twice, and took 2 shots to the dome. Fast forward to 2000, and Rosemond got slapped with a 19-month bid for a weapons charge. Even with a rap sheet long as Fulton Street, Henchman still bossed up heavy in the game. My guy was running things on the business side too, founded Czar Entertainment, a management company. On January 21st, 2005, Rosemond rolled up with his artist, The Game, to a live interview out in Lanham, Maryland. Both Henchman and Game got booked for second-degree assault after they straight up ran down on the interviewer, all cause dude was clowning Henchman over his Bluetooth earpiece. Fast forward to early '07 and things got even wilder. Rosemond's son, Jabulani, caught a slap from Tony Yayo and his homie, Lodi Mack, who was supposedly repping the Bloods. Streets was buzzing after that, saying that Smackdown Yayo and Lodi put on Henchman's son was all tied to the beef between G-Unit and Game. You know Game was rocking with Czar Entertainment under Rosemond, so it was all connected. Yayo got popped on March 24th for the assault, and just a few weeks later, on April 18th, Yayo's mom's crib got hit in a drive-by. Word is that was payback for laying hands on Henchman's son. Dave Lighty, Chris Lighty's lil bro, got sliced up in a razor attack, some wild retaliation in that G-Unit versus Czar beef. Yayo's Bentley took some heat in Harlem, got sprayed up, and even one of G-Unit's bulletproof whips got lit on fire. Authorities say it's all part of that back-and-forth drama. By February 2008, they dropped them charges against Yayo, said they ain't have enough evidence, but the streets ain't forget. Lodi Mack, a.k.a. Fletcher, got gunned down in the Bronx on September 27, 2009. They say that was more revenge for putting hands on Henchman's son. In June 2010, the feds finally wrapped up their long investigation on Henchman. DEA came through heavy with an arrest warrant for big-time trafficking charges. My man Rosemond went ghost for a whole month, ducking the heat. But they finally caught up with him at the W Hotel in Manhattan, tried to make a quick getaway on foot. But it ain't last long. Marshals ran him down, tackled him to the pavement, and he even chipped a tooth when they slammed him to the ground. In 2011, Dexter Isaac, a certified lifer locked up on a murder bid, started singing to the DEA and them feds who was on Rosemond's neck for them trafficking charges. Isaac, who's sitting in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, decided to cooperate. He straight up told prosecutors that he was the one who pulled the trigger in that infamous 1994 Tupac shooting. Isaac let the feds know that he and a homie ran up on Pac, hit him for that jewelry, and let them shots off, all on Rosemond's orders. Word is, Rosemond slid him $2,500 cash and let him keep the jewels. Fast forward to May 2012, Rosemond's whole empire got put on trial. They had him dead to rights for running a bi-coastal drug game, moving millions. Prosecutors were saying Rosemond's crew been pulling in over $1 million a year since '07 off them narcotics. They was slick too, hiding that work in cases filled with mustard, trying to throw off the dogs, shipping it coast to coast in music gear. They'd flip the coke and send them cash stacks right back to Cali. So June 5th, 2012, the feds hit Rosemond with the guilty verdict on all 13 counts. They had him pinned for pushing that yayo, conspiracy, money moves, witness tampering, and strapped up with the burners. Then June 22nd, they hit him again, this time for the hit on Lowell Lodi Mac Fletcher. By October 25th, 2013, the judge ain't show no mercy. My man got life in Brooklyn federal court. On top of that, they made him cough up $14 million cash and assets. It was a wrap after that. Well, folks, that'll wrap up this video. Hop in the comments section and let us know your thoughts on these individuals that rappers feared and idolized. Be sure to hit them like and subscribe buttons so y'all get notified whenever we drop. Peace and blessings.
The shit is wicked on these mean streets, mean streets.
Dear God, I wonder, can you save me?